Here. Why didn't you say it the first time I said Aaron?
Because it's pronounced Aaron.
You done messed up, Aaron!
Aaron is present, everyone. It's not me who done messed up this time. It is secret Scientology agent Lori Blankenship, and we're here to talk about it. I'm joined today by the wonderful, the lovely, the amazing Elizabeth Gale. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's truly my pleasure. Let me show everyone your YouTube channel real quick. Liz Gale, at Liz _, Gale _. I think I have your channel linked in the description down below already, but if I don't, I sure will.
Okay.
right after we finish this. So we are here to talk about Lori Blankenship. And I've got my own selfish reasons for wanting to talk about it. Do you have any particular reasons for wanting to address this?
I think it's very bizarre. I think that the content that she made about me and my family is really weird, and it's interesting to kind of pick it apart now and laugh at it.
Yeah, I'll tell you, my selfish reasons are the fact that one of the things that I live in Clearwater, Florida. That's where Lori Blankenship lives. It's where her sister Angie Blankenship lives. Angie Blankenship used to be one of the senior most executives of Scientology. In fact, she's one of the most executives of Scientology who's left and never spoken out. And I have a lot of contempt for her for that reason. I know everyone's got their own, own stuff that they're dealing with, but Angie Blankenship is up there on the former Sea Org Hall of Shame. And where I'm going with this is Angie and Lori live here in Clearwater Beach, Island Estates. They have convinced all of the non-Scientologist members of the community that they have nothing to do with Scientology. That Scientology is something that was in Angie Blankenship's past, but she's moved on and doesn't want anything to do with it. And for sure, Lori's not a Scientologist. Oh my God, Lori? No, Aaron, you just don't understand. And yet, Lori Blankenship, after you appeared on the Scientology in the Aftermath television program, not 10 minutes later, Scientology launched their hate website about you. And who was the star of one of their propaganda videos but Lori Blankenship herself? So I wanted, I know all the people in the Clearwater community aren't like doing deep dives on the internet to find who's doing hate videos about Scientology, but I want all of them to know your good friend, Lori Blankenship, when the Church of Scientology beckons, she comes a calling and she says, whatever you need, I'm here at your beck and call. And the truth is, Angie, that's true for Angie Blankenship as well. I mean, I've said, if you're a former Scientologist and you're still connected to Scientologists and you are not declared a suppressive person, I'm sorry, you're a Scientologist. I mean, do you agree with that?
Completely, because they tell you you're either in or you're out. You're 100% in or you're out. So even if you don't feel 100% in, that's what you have to project in order to keep staying in that group.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, for the audience, before Liz started doing her YouTube channel, she prior to that started a very successful TikTok account. She does she's probably the #1 Scientology content creator on TikTok. That's like there's probably not even a close second, to be honest. She did want to give a shout out to another TikTok creator who's not a Scientologist, but recently posted a hilarious Scientology satire video that's gone a little bit viral. Let me see if I can pull it up here easily. Give me a sec.
Oh, it's so funny to see people who have never been in Scientology like parody it. She got so many things right technically about it, but it cracked me up.
Okay, the name of the channel is Mango Hallucinates. I will link to it in the description down below. And guys, we're really just showing this for fun. It's not even relevant to anything, but just want to show you the kind of great stuff that happens over there in TikTok land.
TikTok,
so,
yeah.
Please let me know in the live chat if you can hear the sound okay once I press play. And here we go.
A day in the life of a Scientologist.
Oh my God, that's great. That is awesome.
So much effort went into that. The outfit, going to the location. Oh,
that's what I was going to say is how did she manage to get the exact vest and pants that the staff members wear these days? All right, let's show now the Lori Blankenship video. And here we go. So let's show everyone just like where this thing is posted. Okay. This is on the website LeahReminiAftermath.com, one of the many, many websites they created to attack Leah and anyone who appeared on the show. So we're only going to watch the video from Lori, but it's not the only video that they did about.
I'm not ready for that. That's my mother.
That's your mother?
That's my mother.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, that's Marie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my God. Okay.
If you
So
guys could see my palms over here are like sweating.
Oh,
There's a lot.
there's more than one video from Lori. I didn't even know. I was only prepared for one, but
So there's clips. We can
Oh.
look through them. It's a very bizarre reaction, in my opinion. This came out 10 minutes after the episode. So they must have filmed this before knowing what my episode on Leah Remini's show was about. So
yes.
they kind of covered a lot of bases, just blanket defending my mom, I think, mostly.
Okay, so let's go full screen on this and let's see what Lori has to say.
I've known Marie since I was little because my mom and Marie's husband, David, worked in the same company together, but my mom and Marie were best friends. So I knew Philip and Elizabeth when they were little kids. And I knew Marie and David and how much they loved their kids. And Philip and Elizabeth they had the best rooms as kids growing up. They had a really big house and it was really beautiful. And she took care of all their stuff really nice. And Marie was a really great mom. I know it because I saw the way.
Yeah, go ahead.
What a bizarre defense. I had a nice room, you guys. We had nice rooms. We had nice stuff. Wow. If you guys know the story of like the emotional and like religious and like I didn't even live at home. I went to boarding school from 8 years old. Anyway, you can continue.
So what is she even talking about your room if you were off at boarding school? And is it because they had a room for you for the few minutes a year you would come home? Like, what is she even talking? Is she just making shit up?
She might be talking about when I was a little kid. I mean, listen. Yeah, I had my bedspread matched my pillowcase and matched my curtains. And my mother was gone for months at a time. And I spoke to her over the crackling satellite phone when she was at Free Winds doing her high Scientology OT levels away from her children, being raised by a nanny. So thank goodness I had a beautiful room.
Was your family relatively well off growing up?
Yes. Until my father passed away when I was 12. He was the breadwinner in our family. He had a bunch of successful businesses. It kind of yo-yoed a little bit. Yeah.
Is Lori closer to your age than she is your mom's age?
Yes, because Lori and Angie's mother was my mom's really good friend. I believe they were on the ship together. They were going through the OT levels in like 1989, kind of one of those, not first people that went through, but early, the original OT8, not the new one. So the reason that Lori and I even came up, I'm sure, is because, I went to boarding school at Delphi, Oregon at 8. By 12 years old, I was having some behavioral issues, and they basically was suspended, and I was told that if I go down to Flag and I do my TRs and objectives, which is a Scientology course, and then I could go back to Delphi. So I went and lived with Lori at 12 years old. And she was 20, so she's 10 years older than me. She was like 21 or 22. And I went and stayed with her while I did my TR and objectives. She lived right there right downtown. And I would walk to the Coachman every day and do my Scientology. So that's her point of reference of why she knows me.
So, I mean, it's a little weird that they would take a 21-year-old who wasn't your legal guardian and put put you, a 12-year-old, under her care.
It's very strange. It's
I
very,
mean,
very strange.
yeah. Okay. All right. Let's keep going.
The way she interacted with her kids, and she didn't work, but she loved her kids, and she did a lot with them. And David did most of the work, so David was at work a lot, and he was a software developer, and he worked with computers in the company with my mom. But Marie, she was an awesome mom.
Oh, that was it? Oh, geez. Okay.
That's her. That's one of those clips. Yeah.
She was an awesome mom because her kids had a nice bedroom.
Right.
Okay, then let's watch the other one. I didn't realize that was so damn short.
About 20 years ago, in 1997, I think, Marie had called me and asked me if I would be interested in having Elizabeth come and live with me, because Elizabeth was going to come to Clearwater. And I said, sure, of course. And Elizabeth was like 13 or 14 years old, but
Now,
12.
as you said, you're only 12.
Mhm.
Do you think she has why does she have a reason to lie about that, or could she just be misremembering?
I think she's just misremembering. Probably
Okay.
wished I was older.
Yeah, she probably didn't have the concept, because honestly, I mean, in Scientology, you don't tend to think about how young kids are,
Right.
because in Scientology, being a kid it's not a real thing. Age is not relevant.
Right. Which makes it make
Oops.
sense that you would send a 12-year-old to live with a 21-year-old in a completely different state and be totally responsible for their day-to-day getting to and from all those things. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's strange.
All right, let's go.
I was closer to Elizabeth's age, even though I was 27 years old.
There you go.
And
Was she 27? She's only
I
10. She's 10 years older than you, so she couldn't have been.
I think she's misremembering a little bit. She might be 13 years older, but she's misremembering.
Okay.
I think Marie had a good idea, because Elizabeth wasn't doing good where they were living in North Carolina, but whether she didn't like the school or if it was a behavior thing. I don't really know what was going on in North Carolina, but when Marie asked me if I could be Elizabeth's guardian down here, and Elizabeth was going to come here to take a course or, get counseling for the summer with Marie's friend, I thought that was a great idea. And I lived in a beautiful loft.
Why did she say with Marie's friend?
With Marie's friend.
Do you want me to play it again?
I heard her. I'm not actually sure why she said that. I was just taking course. I took my tiers and objectives. I
Because
have
if
to be honest with
if you
so
were
much
going to
is
be coming down with your
blocked out.
mom's friend, there'd be no reason for her to ask Lori to be your guardian.
No,
Right.
not at all. I was completely by myself with Lori.
Wow. All right, let's keep going.
In downtown. So Elizabeth moved in with me, and we had meals together every day. And I had an extra spare bedroom, and I set up her room. And Elizabeth wanted to be really grown up. She wanted to be a grown up. So she and I had a good communication line,
Oh
and
my gosh, will you
she
stop
was
it
doing
for a
well. But
second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Did I want to be grown up, or was I put into a grown up situation as a completely unprepared 12-year-old child and forced to be grown up? Thank you, Lori. All right.
And also, what is her point? A lot of kids want to be grown up. It almost seems like it's a justification for what something she's about to say, but I don't know if she gets there because I haven't watched this video recently. She wanted to be grown up.
Yeah.
It sounds like the end of that sentence is going to be something not that great.
Well, it wasn't great. It was not a good I don't think she mentions it here, but it was not a good situation. You should never send a 12-year-old girl to live with another girl in her early 20s and expect and go into with Scientology involved. It's not good.
I mean, we're going to watch the end. There's only a minute left in this video, but do you have any idea what is the context? Why is she saying that in front of the camera? Liz wanted to be very grown up. Did something happen that maybe they're not including in this video? Why is she saying this?
I think she's saying this for one, I was a brat. And for two, I got into some trouble down there. I was around a lot of 20-year-olds, and not all Scientology 20-year-olds look at a 12-year-old girl as a minor or a child. And so I had I'll put it like this. I had some interactions with people that were over 18 that should not ever happen. And while I was down there, because that was, I don't know, that's what's going on.
It's interesting that it seems like this came up in her interview, even though I'm sure they've cut it out.
Right.
It's a weird freaking interview.
It's so
Because she doesn't
creepy.
even say much.
I think they're both actually trying to protect me. If you watch my mom's, it's heartbreaking to me. Please don't put me through that. But
I won't.
it's almost like they're trying to protect me throughout this process. Like Osa's trying to pull this stuff out of them, and they're literally doing, she looks like a prisoner of war. Like she's trying not to say anything incriminating. It's terrible.
And also, they're talking about a 12-year-old. So like, how hard could they drag you in a video without looking like they're condoning crimes?
I know.
Now, maybe that's why she said 13 or 14, because 12 would just be beyond the pale.
But I'll never forget when it was, because my father died while I was in Florida. So I came home to Lori's house one day, and my mom and her mom were putting groceries in the fridge, and I was like, my mom's here. And boom.
And they just told you, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. All right, let's see where she's going here.
Of course, in that time is when her father,
I'm trying to rewind it, but I think I paused it.
like, she wanted to be a grown up. So she and I had a good communication line, and she was doing well. But of course, in that time is when her father died. Her father died of a heart attack. And I remember when Marie called my mom and said that she was coming to Clearwater that day because there was a tragedy. My mom, I think, picked up Marie from the airport and came to my house. And together, the three of us made sure that the environment was going to be safe, because Marie was about to tell her daughter that her father had died. And it was really tragic and terrible. And Marie was heartbroken to have to tell her this. And Marie did everything she could to set up so that when she told her this, it would be as safe of an environment as possible, because she knew this was tragic news and it was going to change Elizabeth's life forever. After that, they did go back to the Carolinas, though. Of course, she went back. She had a lot to do after that, and Elizabeth stayed with her.
I mean, it's like Marie was a great mom, because, man, she made sure that when she told Liz her dad died, it broke her heart to have to tell Liz that her dad died. She's a great mother. Well, what the hell are they doing with this video?
Yeah. It
seems like they must have assumed that your entire episode on Scientology in the Aftermath was to bash specifically your mother. And I don't think that was what your episode was about at all.
Thank you. You know what? I believe that to be the case as well, because my mother came when my brother unalived himself back in the day. She came under heavy scrutiny because she was against psych meds, and her son had a mental crisis where he took his own life. So I think that's what Scientology thought we were going to do again. But my mother was also raised in Scientology, right? I'm a third generation Scientologist. That means that my grandmother raised my mother by Dianetics, by the book, when she was born. And I have some compassion for that. I have some compassion and some understanding about how you might not be the best mom you could possibly be with having grown up and then staying in Scientology and using Scientology to raise your kids. So I'm not about to make a huge thing about my mom. And I want to make really clear here today that I'm not on here to bash my mom in any way. This is the best they could do for me, right? This is the best comeback that they had. They thought that I was going to bring some sort of spite and hate, and that's them. That's how they play. I'm not interested in doing that. I'm still waiting for the day that she gets out and she knocks on my door, and we can go through that together.
Wow. Yeah, I guess they assumed you'd be talking about your brother, and they can't exactly do videos crapping on your brother.
Nope.
And they can't exactly do videos crapping on a 12-year-old girl. So they do a bunch of videos about what a great mother your mother really was, since that's just where they assumed you were going with all that.
I guess so. Yeah. And And see, that's not the lesson of my story. That's not the lesson of my family. The lesson, I think, of my family's whole 70-year involvement in Scientology is that you can have the best of intentions and you can apply Scientology exactly how they tell you, like thinking that it's going to work, and it's not going to work. It doesn't matter what you do. Like, you're going to screw everybody up.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah.
It's true. It's true. I just did a little video about an hour ago about Tom Cruise, and I mentioned that Scientology has destroyed Tom Cruise's family. It's destroyed David Miscavige's family, and it destroyed L. Ron Hubbard's family. I said, how could any Scientology family or Scientologist hope to have a better or different outcome for themselves and their family than L. Ron Hubbard, Tom Cruise, and David Miscavige?
Yes. And it's not exclusive to whether you were on staff or you were in the Sea Org. You can be a public member like my family was, benefiting from all that slave labor, benefiting from staying in the hotels and all that stuff, and it still won't work for you. So that has to be made clear. Like, it's not actually working for these celebrities who are succeeding, like you're saying, Tom Cruise. Their careers might succeed, but their personal lives he has one biological child that he has no relationship with.
It's true. Even hearing you just say that right now, like, really brings it home. Like, the only thing Tom Cruise has going for him has been his professional career. His personal life is in shambles.
In shambles. And it has been for years. He's a failure. And that's probably how they keep him coming back. His ruin, right? You can find his ruin, which is coercion to keep him vulnerable, to keep him thinking he needs Scientology.
I have never thought about that. That literally could still be Tom Cruise's ruin. He cannot find and keep a partner.
I would assume it is.
Oh my God. But Liz, just wait for OT 9 and 10, because that'll handle everything.
Oh my gosh. My parents were waiting for that since the 80s, the like late 80s.
Okay, so I'm dying to know. You and I have never talked about this, I don't think. So, you growing up, not just yourself growing up in Scientology, but your mom having already grown up in Scientology. How was your rambunctiousness or recalcitrance or whatever? How was your behavioral problems, as Lori described it? How was that explained? I was going to say explained away, but I mean, like, what kind of stuff was put on you by your mom or both of your parents? What were you being told was the reason you were having problems?
Ultimately, when I was around 19, I got a PTS type B declare.
No.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I did. So I was just behaviorally, I thought back a lot. Like, I had times at Delphi where I screamed in the middle of the course room, like, fuck you all, to the supervisors. Like, that's what had escalated. I was
Delphi, Oregon?
Yes. Because here's the thing. My brother went there when he was 8, and he was their star pupil. And so I was just sort of grandfathered in, and they let me get away with so much because of my family, my parents, my brother. And so it really took a lot for me to get out of there. I worked pretty damn hard to get kicked out of there finally.
Wow.
And I did it. Yeah. So I mean, obviously the way those behaviors were dealt with, though, because I was also I was scared. I didn't have a lot of my needs met. First time I went there, I ate white rice and bread for probably 2 months, not because they didn't have food, but because I was 8 years old and didn't know enough about how to take care of myself, to eat balanced meals properly. Like,
you were
little
8
things.
when you went to Delphi, Oregon for the first time.
I was, as was my brother.
Did you have a guardian?
A guardian. I had a PT, a personal teacher, they're called, and she had kids and lived on site. She did the best she could. But no, I lived in a dorm, and I had work crew like everybody else, and it was up to me to get where I was going and do my laundry and all that stuff. It wasn't a good situation for me. I have a son who just is going into 4th grade, and I cannot imagine putting
That's what I was
him
that's what I
in
was
that
just going to say. Like in these Scientology families, but going off to Delphi is sort of romanticized. Like it's this great little Scientology utopia for kids. But I got to tell you, if my parental units at the age of 8 was like, we'd like to ship you off, I'd be mortified.
Yeah, it was horrible. And there's a constant theme when I was finally sent back at 12 where it was like, we don't want you. You're going to Lori Blankenship now. And then Lori says I went back to North Carolina with her. Yeah, I went back for my dad's funeral. And within 2 or 3 months, I was back at Delphi, Oregon, which was actually probably a little bit better for me. Pick your poison. But yeah, so all of this is just, again, to reiterate that, like, it's not a trauma contest or anything like that. But I do want the whole world to know that all of Scientology is a horrible situation, not exclusively the staff in the Sea Org situation. Like, you do not get a free pass just because you are a donor.
Absolutely. It sort of occurred to me recently that in some ways it seems that public Scientologists end up believing in Scientology in a way that is even deeper than Sea Org members believe in it. And again, I'm sure I could think of, different ways to describe this, but it's like, and I'm speaking from my own personal bias, but it's like in the Sea Org, so much of what you do is just because you have to and have no choice. Whereas to public Scientologists, they live in the real world. They have freedom of motion. They have potentially freedom of thought. They have to honest to God believe through and through in what they are being told by L. Ron Hubbard in order to police themselves. In the Sea Org, everyone's policing you. You don't have to believe shit. You're gonna walk the way everyone else walks because everyone else is walking that way. You're not required to necessarily believe. You just have to do. But public believe it so deeply.
Yes. And their thought policing, no one's censoring the internet from the public. No one is keeping them from watching Going Clear or, A&E or anything. They are doing this to themselves. My family are some of the most hardcore believers that I know, because they will look at you straight in the eye and tell you that Scientology is doing more good across a number of dynamics than it is badly, right? So they're doing more good than harm, and completely justify the harm that has been done by saying that it's doing such good, because they're watching Scientology Network. They're going to the events that are total brainwash propaganda, and they want to believe the lie. It's a perfect storm of cult coercion.
It is. It is. Now, I feel like potentially that's a double-edged sword, that belief, because, well, there's this phrase, you can't rationalize someone out of a position they were never rationalized into the first place, right? So you can't reason with someone if reason's not what got them where they are.
Right.
And yet to a Scientologist, I think for public Scientologists, I think to a one, they would probably argue, no. I have been reasoned into this position. I have, through my own analytical thought and my own, critical thinking skills, determined for myself the truth and the validity of Scientology. And you go, okay, but if that's true, then you should be able to, with facts, get them to reevaluate their position. And yet it seems almost impossible to do that, even with public Scientologists.
It really does. The approach, I think. Go ahead.
Well, what, like, for you, you've ended up in a different place than your family members who are still inside the bubble. What was it that did it for you, even if it wasn't just one thing?
Education. It was absolutely education, because I graduated high school at 14. 14. I had to go legally to some kind of school, and I went to community college, and that opened the door for me to a completely new world that I really embraced. I went on to get my bachelor's in child and family studies from Portland State University. It took me a long time, but I did it. So I think around then, because I was 14 and I, took my first classes at community college, and I realized there's a whole new world, a whole world out there. And then you got to take sociology, psychology 101, 201. You have to take these core classes. So you end up learning.
Wow. So you mentioned before that Scientology public, like your mom, would say Scientology is doing so much good for the world, so much good, helping so many more dynamics, creating so much more benefit along the dynamics than the opposite. Can they not see that the ideal org strategy is 20 years in the making? Actually, yeah, 20 years in the making now. And that every one of these orgs is smaller than it was 20 years ago. Staff-wise, the buildings are bigger, the orgs are smaller. The money that they're spending, the time that they're spending, the children that they're, sending to the Sea Org, that it is not accomplishing the things a normal public Scientologist would believe should be accomplished. I don't know. What is it that prevents a Scientologist like your mom from just looking at her local organization and going, is Scientology really accomplishing anything?
Well, for one, that thought policing, she would stop it if it came. But I think there are different sort of levels of indoctrination and belief systems in Scientology. For someone like my mom, she has to start questioning L. Ron Hubbard, or she has to start questioning the management. There's like two paths you can kind of take. It's like you either need to question the source. Now, if she started questioning L. Ron Hubbard, I think she would probably fracture as a human being. So I think the only thing she's going to be able to accept is that management has steered Scientology wrong. And I said that to her near the end of our relationship, because she told me all these exes are just nattering. All these, people out are SPs and they all committed overts, bad things. So now they are attacking us. And I said, well, what's the difference? Okay, this is going to be Scientology jargon for a second. You can explain it. I said, though, what's the difference about a person who did their doubt, coming up the conditions, doing their liability, delivering an effective blow to the enemy of the group? What if that's what they're doing instead of just nattering? And she thought about that for a little while. I said, you can't tell the difference unless you know. So a lot of Scientology jargon there.
It's true. It's true. A Scientologist can just casually explain everything by just saying overts, disaffected, natter, suppression, PTSdness, A little segue, just because you mentioned coming up through the conditions. There was one huge contradiction that stuck out to me, even when I was still a true believer, as far as how these lower conditions are misapplied or abused and whatever. And that is what Sea Org members are required to do after they leave the Sea Org. They are told they have to come up through the lower conditions to the Sea Org. But it's a direct contradiction of leaving the Sea Org means you applied the doubt condition and decided that the best thing to do was to leave the Sea Org. You cannot now come up through the conditions to the group that you left. That's not how the conditions work. Right. But because L. Ron Hubbard said it was to be so, you're not supposed to think about it too deeply. Did you ever think about that?
Fascinating. No, but I was told once that I had wasted Portland CC, I was a Portland CC public, that I had wasted their time by asking so many critical questions that I had to make them amends to them by coming into Central Files and doing like 15 hours of filing. I was like, wait, what? I paid you for a lot of that time. What? But I was a dev T. I put dev T on their lines. Developed traffic. So I was just a pain in the ass. That's my theme.
Dev T merchant. How old were you when you were labeled PTS type B?
Oh, that's a good question. I could look on my declare. I was older. I'm maybe 19, maybe 20, somewhere along those lines.
Because I don't want to ask you any question if it's too sensitive.
It's fine.
What in the hell caused them to do that? Because for the PTS type B is is criminal. That is Scientology saying Liz is still a Scientologist, but she's a source of trouble because she is a criminal. Like verbatim, PTS type B means criminal. Yes. What in the world occurred?
Well, do you remember the name of my book coming out?
I forget. Tell me.
Confessions of an Ex-Scientologist Pothead.
Oh.
That was why they declared me PTS type B, was because I smoking the cannabis.
I have never heard of that happening before.
Yeah, yeah. Well, see, here's the thing about me is that I would have some I had some like I broke up with my boyfriend and I had this like whole identity crisis at 19 and went back to Scientology. And I was like, I'll be good, I swear, I'll be a perfect Scientologist. And then I did, my purif and all this stuff. And then I kind of got back to college and I smoked weed again. And they were like, Liz, if you keep smoking weed, we're gonna declare you. And I was like, I'm totally gonna keep smoking weed. And they were like, okay, bye. So that, and I don't remember the date, but it was obviously Measure 90. Just for the record, everybody, I live in the state of Oregon and we have recreational cannabis here. And it's not a crime. I'm not a criminal.
But it's like, but the kind of crazy actual criminal things that Scientologists have actually been even convicted of without being labeled PTS type B, like
Right.
it's insane. It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's because I wasted their time because I kept having problems going in. And I think they just thought I was going to make them a lot of money in stats. And when I didn't, they got pretty annoyed. So
wow.
I told this Purif story the other night. So I was at Portland CC doing my Purif. I want to say I was 15, somewhere around there. I had been again sent. I was not living with my family. I was living with a grown man who had 3 other teenage girls living in his apartment, paying money so they could do Scientology as well. He was not a creep, just to be clear.
Okay.
And I was on my Purif and I wanted to leave and I wanted to go try cannabis. And I went to Erica, who was the ethics officer. And I said, hey, I'm blowing from my Purif. She was like 19. She's like, why? And I was like, I'm going to go try marijuana. And she said, that's insane. And I said, yeah, but listen, the Purif works 100%. So I might as well go try this stuff now, come back, sweat it all out of my body. I'm good to go. Secondly, I've already paid for my Purif. So if I leave now, I don't have to pay again when I come back.
Oh my
I told
God.
her all of this and I left. I ran into her about 7 years ago and I said, hey, do you remember me? She was like, are you kidding? You blew my mind. And I left. So that's why I was declared. These are the type of things that I did. That's why they declared me type B, because they were like, we're sick of your shit.
Going off to do drugs because you can come back and do the Purif. They call that the Lisa Marie Presley strategy.
Well, it's sound. It's legit. It checks out.
Oh my God. One thing that a lot of I guess wealthier Scientology families do that I've never understood is if they find out their kid is smoking weed, they send them to Narconon. They send them to full-blown rehab. And I go, rehab is for addiction. Rehab isn't for my kid smokes weed now and then, and Narconon costs like $30,000. And it's like, you're going to send them to rehab. They're going to learn everything they ever wanted to know about different substances and addiction and criminality behavior that results from addiction. You're sending them to get a university education on substance abuse.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
Yeah. What are you thinking at that point? Especially because from what I understand, there were old staff members who had gone through Narconon who were bringing drugs into the programs at certain locations. So if you had sent your kid there for cannabis, they could have left addicted to heroin.
Oh my God. When I was, still in Scientology, I worked for Kurt Feshbach and my wife worked for the Narconon that Kurt Feshbach was the owner of.
Okay.
Kurt's daughter, Corinne, was the QualSec, the head of Division 5 quality control. She was doing drugs with the clients.
Yeah. Yeah.
Narconon is not a high echelon program.
No. Matt and Kathy are my second godparents.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't realize you'd gotten in so much trouble as a little Scientologist.
Oh yeah. That's kind of my vibe.
Did they ever lift that type B declare?
No.
And
I don't
rode.
But I have never seen an SP, a suppressive person declare. I assume it's there. But, if you watch those videos that my mom made about me on that same page, she very much tries to make everything somebody else's fault. Like, I can't think for myself. Like, Mike Ringer made me do the show. Maybe my husband turned me against Scientology. Never really giving me credit for the fact that I have known it was a scam off and on since I was a very little girl. very, very little girl, I've been like, the adults around me are all full of crap. It's something
Wow.
I've been working on a lot actually in therapy, because the younger you think this as a child, it's hard to have trust with the world.
So we must have some people that joined the chat just recently. John C is asking, is your mother Marie Gale?
Yes.
Yes, indeed. By the way, guys, if you're one of the 1,800 people watching live, please click that like button. It actually helps with notifications, or at least it seems to. And so, why was Lori Blankenship an important figure in your childhood, or was it just someone you stayed with for that brief stint in Clearwater?
Yeah, very brief stint in Clearwater, because she was our mothers were friends. Let me tell you a little secret, Aaron. When I stayed with Lori, I actually stole about $200 from her. She had this tip jar, and I know it was wrong. And I bought extra food here and there and like little things. I don't know, I was 12. Later, I came out and I did amends. I paid her back. And it was this whole thing. She either does not remember that, or she didn't mention that. She could have called me a thief. She could have called me a liar. And she wouldn't have been lying about me at that time. So strange. That's why I'm like.
That's actually really funny that you mentioned that, because I had a similar thing that I did that Scientology's never accused me of. I mean, they accused me of everything else under the sun, moon, and stars. But when I was like 16 or 17, anyway, I forget, 15, 16, 17, I was getting ready to blow staff in Philadelphia. I was going to move to LA, which I did. But before I left, I was like, fuck it, I'm taking. So I took like a few $100s from Treasury. And then a couple years later, when I was still in LA, I sent the money back.
Okay.
And I got a phone call like, well, what did you send this money back? It never occurred to me that they never suspected it was me who took the money. I just always assumed they always knew it was me.
Right.
And so I sent the money back without an explanation, really. And I got a phone call from the ethics officer like, what's the money that you sent? I was like, it was from that money I took from Treasury. They're like, what money? It turns out they investigated the Treasury secretary who had been stealing money.
Oh, shouldn't have outed yourself.
This guy had created phantom staff members that he would include into the staff pay sum. And he was paying himself multiple times over by creating these fake staff members. So they never suspected it was me who took the money. But of all the things they accused me of, they've never accused me of stealing money from the org.
They forgot.
Yeah, I guess Lori forgot as well.
Yeah.
So literally the only connection that you had to Lori was your parents were friends.
Yes. And she did my hair when I was younger.
Right. So Lori is probably best known on Clearwater Beach for working at one of these higher end hair salons or hair salons on the beach. I couldn't even tell you the name of it. And I've never been clear on whether she owned it or whether Cheryl Festa owned it or anything like that.
Yeah. I should mention, actually, I have older cousins, girls, and they are in a friend group with Lori and all those Clearwater ladies. So I guess I did have other interactions with Lori through my older cousins. So maybe we were at events together or got watched when we were all hanging out or something like that.
Right. So the bottom line here is that for all you residents of Island Estates and Clearwater Beach who are so confident that Lori Blankenship and Angie Blankenship have no ties to Scientology, no allegiance to Scientology, are not in the pocket of David Miscavige, I refer you to this website. I mean, the only reason Angie Blankenship wouldn't be doing videos is because Miscavige hates her with a passion and would never let her face be shown in any Scientology properties. But apparently Lori's okay, because none of these videos are getting made without David Miscavige's approval.
Yeah, I know. And the thing is, again, I got some compassion toward Lori. Let's not forget, she also was raised in this madness, and doesn't look great in that video. I can't imagine she's doing great. So let's not come down too hard on her, because it has been 5 years. Lori, if you're out there and you want us to change this narrative about you and you want to get on the right side of history, now there's never been a better time. And if you're ready, you should come out here.
I love it. Lori should do her coming out party with Liz on Liz's channel and tell the world how much she regrets sitting down and doing a propaganda hate video for Scientology to shit on Liz. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm glad we got a chance to talk about this. I'm sure it will make all the rounds in Clearwater. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. Sorry if you get sent to ethics, anybody.
Sorry, Laurie.
Sorry.
By the way, have you done any of your own on your own channel, any sort of responses or reaction videos to any of these things?
I did one just to Lori, one of her short videos, just kind of testing it out. You can check it out if you want. I think we covered most of it in here. But
Cool.
yeah, just a friendly reminder. Anybody out there who's under the radar, like, we can't trust you until you come out publicly. It's not safe for us to risk that with you. So if you're going to pick a side, like, make it known, and then we'll all party.
Let me just show everyone one more time your YouTube channel. I'll also link to your TikTok in the description down below. But
Okay, see that up there, Quizmaker. I'm doing
where does it say Quizmaker?
At the top.
Oh,
Liz
Quizmaker.
Bell.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm doing some cult quizzes coming up because my book is going to get released on September 1st on Amazon. So I've got a bunch of culty quizzes.
Oh, I
stuff.
cannot wait. I want to do so many videos with you when your book comes out.
Thanks.
All right, everyone. Thank you for watching. Thanks to everyone who watches until the very end.
Yeah.
And we'll talk to you soon.
Bye, y'all.
If you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe right here. Bye.